Hello and welcome back to my channel. We are continuing our lead up to the 94th Annual Academy Awards. Today, I'm gonna go through all of the 23 categories for the Academy Awards and let you know what I think is gonna go home with the award at the end of the night. Lastly, before we begin, if you didn't know, I am on the Oscar Film Forecast. We cover award shows and all the latest news. We do some reviews. If you like this conversation that I'm doing about award shows, make sure to check us out over there. We'd be very happy to have you. Without further ado, let's get into the first category, which is Best Animated Feature, where the nominees are Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. And here, I think Lin-Manuel Miranda will be responsible for the win here because nobody can get We Don't Talk About Bruno out of their heads. I think this category is a slam dunk for Encanto. When you have the entire Academy voting, I just think that they're gonna go with the movie that they know. And Encanto has just been everywhere. And while I do think that Flea maybe has a chance, I would probably put that at number 2. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I also think the fact that it's in 3 categories may split the vote. I think unfortunately for Flea, it may just have to rest with the fact that it had these groundbreaking nominations. I don't know if it's gonna go home with any of the wins. But I also don't think it's necessarily, out of the race. I do think that there's a mini race here, but I am pretty sure that Encanto is gonna take this and Disney will take home another Best Animated Feature Oscar. Moving on to Best Costume Design, we have Cruella, Cyrano, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. And for me, I am just so happy that this film has been able to stick around to the point that I think it's going to win this award, and that is Cruella. Jenny Beavan's work, who of course was the costume designer and the Oscar winner for Mad Max Fury Road, I think is doing such inventive, creative design work here, and I'm so happy this is probably gonna go her way. Next up, we have Best Production Design, where the nominees are Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. And here I think this is going to be an easy category for Dune to pick up. I think in creating the different worlds and planets of this sci-fi epic, the production design team of Dune just had such an incredible task and they just accepted it and soared. The movie largely works because of how grounded you feel in the world of Dune, and I think that is why the production designers will win. Again, a possible upset from Nightmare Alley if the Academy wants to give it something, but I feel that Dune, with the larger nomination count, I think a lot of people are going to respect Denis Villeneuve's epic. Next up, we have Best Film Editing, where the nominees are Don't Look Up, Dune, King Richard, The Power of the Dog, and Tick, Tick, Boom. Now, this category is one of the craziest to predict because all of the kind of precursors have been all over the place. The Ace Eddie Award went to King Richard. The Critics' Choice went to West Side Story, which isn't even nominated in this category. The BAFTA went to No Time to Die, which isn't even nominated in this category. I'm gonna go with Dune because I think that in terms of this is probably the most well-crafted of these 5 in terms of the technical prowess of the film. And as my friend Jack said on Oscar Film Forecast, there seems to be a tradition of sound and editing linking up. And I for sure think, and we can get into this now, that Best Sound, the nominees are Belfast, Dune, No Time to Die, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. This is an easy layup for Dune here, so I think that is the only thing that gives me confidence to pick Dune here for Best Film Editing. Moving on to International Feature Film, the nominees are Drive My Car, Flea, The Hand of God, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, and The Worst Person in the World. As much fun as it would be if Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom won just for that to be an Oscar-winning title, I think this is easy. The Drive My Car, it's the movie that's nominated for Best Picture, and usually, I can't think of a time when a Best Picture nominee lost out in this category to a non-Best Picture nominee. I'm not sure it's ever happened. So I think Drive My Car is your easy money here, and it's also the best movie in this category. It's one of the best movies of the year. I'm going to be very happy to see this win. For Best Makeup and Hairstyling, we have Coming to America, Cruella, Dune, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and House of Gucci. Usually they tend to be more focused on the makeup over the hairstyling. And that's what makes me think Cruella is probably doesn't have a huge chance because I think that's more of a movie that prioritizes the hairstyling. Very good hairstyling, but I think it's going to lean more in the makeup side. And I think due to the surge of Jessica Chastain in Best Actress, more on her later, I do think Isa Tammy Faye is going to win this category. And personally, it's what I would pick too out of these 5 nominees. I think that the transformation that she goes under is one thing, but seeing the gradual change throughout the decades of Tammy Faye and Jim Baker and Vincent D'Onofrio's Jerry Falwell, I think that is the most that the makeup and hair have to do in terms of responding to the narrative of the film and the narrative working. So I think Isa Tammy Faye is a deserving winner in this category, and I think because of the surge that Jessica Chastain is doing and the fact that everybody, I think, is seeing that movie, I think that's going to help Tammy Faye take the category here. Next up, we have Best Original Score, where the nominees are Don't Look Up, Dune, Encanto, Parallel Mothers, and The Power of the Dog. Great to see Parallel Mothers here. Very happy that got in. I think this is most likely going to go Dune. I have like an 85% belief that it's going to go Hans Zimmer's way, which will be his second Oscar, his first since The Lion King, which is incredible that that's been his only win thus far. So that's really exciting, and it also is what I would probably give the award to. I mean, the last crescendo of Dune alone is enough for it to win this category. Then let's talk about Best Original Song. This is like original score, but these are the songs that are sung, and usually they're sung over the credits. The nominees are, without further ado, Be Alive from King Richard, Dos Oreguitas from Encanto, Down to Joy from Belfast, No Time to Die from No Time to Die, and Somehow You Do from 4 Good Days. Diane Warren, always getting in there, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. And I think her streak will continue because this is really down to Dos Oreguitas and No Time to Die. Now, will the fact that many people want to see Lin-Manuel Miranda get that EGOT bring him to the stage for the wrong Encanto song? Dos Oreguitas is a beautiful song, but I think we all know this should have been We Don't Talk About Bruno. Will people be thinking about We Don't Talk About Bruno and maybe vote for Dos Oreguitas as a representative of the Encanto soundtrack as a whole? I think it's a possibility, but in the end, I think the fact that the Spectre song won by Sam Smith proves that there's a lot of love for Bond songs. You have to go back to Quantum of Solace in 2008 for the last James Bond movie that did not win. So I think that I am going to predict No Time to Die, Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell just on a roll as always. I'm such big fans of them, and to see them take the stage at the Oscars is going to be such a great moment. Though to be honest, if Lin won, that would also be a great moment. This is one of the categories that I'm perfectly fine whoever ends up taking it out of the frontrunners. Next up, we have Best Cinematography, where the nominees are Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. Rarely are the Oscars this on point for a category. I think these are the 5 best shot movies of last year, and I'm very happy with their choices here. And I think I'll be just as happy when they award Dune with the category here. I think that the work that Greg Fraser does is just so impressive. He is able to really bring out Denis Villeneuve's vision in such unparalleled ways. This looks unlike any other movie before it, and I think also he's probably benefiting from a bump given that the new release of The Batman, which he also was the cinematographer for, has put his name back in the conversation as one of the best. I believe he is the heir apparent to Roger Deakins, and I think he is going to take this award. Though look out for Ari Wagner and her work on The Power of the Dog. Very different cinematography. We'll see where they are. Last year, the more naturalistic looking film at Nomadland did lose out to the more produced cinematography and the showy visuals of Mank. And so I'm thinking that we're probably going to have the same type of voting body vote again, and the more showy cinematography is going to beat out the more natural camera work of The Power of the Dog. Next up, we have Best Visual Effects, where the nominees are Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home, where, again, easy layup, this is going to Dune. It's the most impressive, it's the best crafted, it is the best integration of the computer-generated images and the practical effects. It's just a no-brainer. Dune will take this category, hands down. I will bet my life on Dune winning Best Visual Effects. For Best Documentary Feature, we have Ascension, Attica, Flea, Summer of Soul, and Writing with Fire. And I think that here we're just going to see the frontrunner continue to front run its way to the Oscar stage with Summer of Soul. Of course, the trailer for this movie was debuted during last year's Oscars. I think there's a lot of support for Questlove. And what I think this movie has in its favor up against what I would assume to be the runner-up, which is Flea, is that this is such a joyous film. It still has substance, but it's so entertaining and enthralling, and the way it's edited and cut, you're just engrossed by the true life story of what Questlove sets out to explore here, and I think we'll win this category quite handedly. Now let's talk about the shorts. Now I haven't been able to catch the documentary shorts, but I did get a chance to see all the live action and animated shorts. I went to my local theater, they screened them in a package. If you haven't, do seek them out. If your local theater isn't playing them, I think you can find a lot online. Some of them are quite good here, and I think there's a race here. Let's get into them. Now for documentary short subject, we have Audible, Lead Me Home, The Queen of Basketball, 3 Songs for Benazir, and When We Were Bullies. Here I'm gonna go with The Queen for Basketball. I just see the most talk about this movie, and I also think that it's probably the one that most people have seen. It probably has had the most exposure due to its subject matter. For live action short film, we have A La Kachu, Take and Run, The Dress, The Long Goodbye, On My Mind, and Please Hold. Even though it's not my favorite of this bunch, I think the fact that Riz Ahmed is behind The Long Goodbye, if anything was going to take it from The Long Goodbye, I could see The Dress doing it. I've seen talk about that film, and I think as far as the rest of them go, it's probably the easiest one to get into. It's not as long as A La Kachu, and I think it has a real weight to it that the other two maybe don't necessarily have in full force that The Dress has. So maybe look out for The Dress, but I'm gonna go with The Long Goodbye. And then for animated short film, we have Affairs of the Art, Bestia, Box Ballet, Robin Robin, and The Windshield Wiper. Now for me, The Windshield Wiper is my favorite, and it's one that I'm hoping takes it. But Robin Robin is also such a lovely, lovely short. It's a more children-friendly short. It's a Christmas short that features the voice talents of Richard E. Grant and Gillian Anderson. So I'm gonna go with that one, not only because it's probably a more accessible short film, but it's also backed by Netflix, which doesn't hurt, having one of the major studios be behind your film. Now let's talk about those screenplay categories. Let's start with adapted screenplay, where the nominees are Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, and The Power of the Dog. I think that we're gonna see a very similar trajectory that happened last year, where because Chloe Zhao was so easily winning Best Director and Best Picture, that people voted a different way for Best Adapted Screenplay. And I think the same thing is gonna happen, where people are going to feel like they took care of Campion in those other categories, and they're going to vote something else. And I think they're going to vote Coda. I think the BAFTA win is crucial here because they weren't the biggest fans of that film overall. So the fact that it won there in that category shows the passion that this category individually has for Coda. And I also think that there may be a group of people who want to honor Sian Heder. You know, a lot of people really love this movie, and she hasn't been gaining the same support, I think, that her cast has. And so this would be a nice way to honor her. I think of the other nominees, I mean, I would love to see any of them win. I think Maggie Gyllenhaal, of course, has been doing great on the indie circuit. She won a lot of awards at the Indie Spirit, including Best Screenplay, as well as Best Feature and Best Director. So she could still win this. I do think it's a 3-horse race between those 3, Power of the Dog, Lost Daughter, and Coda. But I just sense that there may be a little bit more passion for Coda. We have 3 frontrunners, which is crazy. Compare that to Best Original Screenplay, where I don't think we have any frontrunners. The nominees there are Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and The Worst Person in the World. Now, in the end, I think this does come down to Belfast versus Licorice Pizza, and I think I'm gonna lean Belfast. You know, it's sweet, it's easy, it's pleasant, and I think this is where Belfast is going to get a little love during the ceremony. I also think the fact that Belfast has double the nominations of Licorice Pizza just shows that there's more support within the Academy for this film. So it's very tough. All right, let's get into the final 6. For Best Supporting Actor, we have Ciarán Hinds for Belfast, Troy Kotsur for Coda, Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos, and Cody Smith-McPhee for The Power of the Dog. Troy Kotsur. Very rarely do deaf actors get this chance, and I think that he will benefit from a love and a thriving passion for Coda. And I think Cody Smith-McPhee, who would be his challenger, he'll have the time to come back here. This is a great, like Timothée Chalamet in Call Me by Your Name, a great landmark performance to cement him as one of the best working actors of his generation. But he'll be back. He'll have another chance to get this award. I think this is probably the only chance Troy Kotsur will get. And because of that, and due to his wins everywhere else, he's going to take this Oscar very easily. For Best Supporting Actress, we have Jessie Buckley for The Lost Daughter. Great to see her here. Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Judi Dench for Belfast. Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog. And Ingenue Ellis for King Richard. It's Ariana DeBose. It's the degree of difficulty with this performance in terms of the singing, the acting, the dancing. It's very visible acting. It's easy to understand the work that Ariana DeBose is doing here. And I think she'll win quite easily here. You're sensing a pattern. And I'm very happy for her. I love Ariana DeBose. And it would be important to note that this would be the third time that two actors have won an Oscar for playing the same character. Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro for Vito Corleone. Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix for The Joker, and now Rita Moreno and Ariana DeBose for Anita. And the first time a female character is included in that mix. So that's an interesting little trivia factoid if she ends up winning. For Best Actor, the nominees are Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith for King Richard, and Denzel Washington for The Tragedy of Macbeth. This is Will Smith, sits hands down. I was holding out for Benedict Cumberbatch, but after the loss at the BAFTA, I think it's just clear that this is going to go to Will Smith as a Lifetime Achievement Award. Everybody loves Will, and I think that, King Richard is kind of engineered to give him an Oscar. And then for Best Actress, we have Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. So you may notice I'm in different clothes, and that's because I filmed this video originally a week ago, and since then, a couple things have happened. So I am going to be changing two of my original predictions. The first is Best Actress. My original prediction was Jessica Chastain because I feel that, out of the 5 nominees, which none of them are in Best Picture, what has started to emerge is a lot of support for Penelope Cruz. And it kind of makes sense because the same argument that has been made for Coda, that it's late breaking and a lot of people are discovering this work, the same could be said for Penelope Cruz. She didn't show up at a lot of the other awards, which is kind of the strike against her in terms of trying to predict her. But I do think that she ignites a lot of passion in people. I think they love her. And I think they also, both within this country and I think specifically abroad, I do think a lot of the international voters will want to recognize not only Penelope Cruz, but Penelope Cruz's contribution to the filmography of Pedro Almodovar. I think honoring that duo with this win is something that I think is appealing to many voters. I think Parallel Mothers is probably higher regarded than The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And it just seems as if a lot of people, because there doesn't really seem to be a front runner and Chastain is the closest thing to it, I think many people are like just voting their passion. Or they think Chastain is gonna win and they think she's covered, so they're just gonna vote Cruz. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna pick Penelope Cruz because I also think that given that Chastain and Cruz have not really competed against each other, there's not really a clear frontrunner between the two of them. This is the first time that Cruz will be competing against Chastain, and therefore I think she can pull off the upset. I think if enough people saw Parallel Mothers, I think that will net her a win. It's a fantastic performance. I mean, Penelope Cruz does more acting looking at her Mac computer screen than most actors do in their entire careers. Then for Best Director, we have Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car. Great to see him here. Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. It's Jane Campion. She's gonna win this. It's no contest. It's easy. We're moving on. And then lastly, Best Picture. Our 10 nominees are Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. And the other category I am changing from when I originally filmed this video, I think is obvious. I am now predicting Coda to win Best Picture. I think what really became clear for me with Coda is that this film really found its groove in the awards season campaign post the nominations. I think it took the Oscar nominations for people to really take it seriously as a contender, and then when people started to discover it, they were falling in love with it. And I think the reason why you're seeing Troy Kotsur win, and especially the adapted screenplay win, is wherever Coda is available to give an award to, people want to give Coda something. And I think you'll see the same thing happen in Best Picture. I think at this moment in time, I think a lot of people really do want to feel good. And I think what's really important, and what I've always been hesitant about predicting Coda, is the fact that there are other feel-good movies up for Best Picture. Belfast, King Richard. It needed to be able to push the other feel-good movies aside in order to really claim this path to the Oscar. Now, Power of the Dog definitely has a lot of support, and I think you see a lot of filmmakers both here and abroad who will love this movie. I think the international contingent of the Academy could still come through for the Power of the Dog, but I don't sense the same passion that I sense for Coda. And I think, you go back to 1917 versus Parasite. A lot of people were predicting 1917, I among them, and it was winning, a lot of the precursor awards. But when it came down to it, and reflecting on that season, Parasite just had the passion. The people who loved Parasite really loved Parasite, and it affected them down to their core. And I see Coda representing the same thing. There is this passion, this verve to support this film. And I think in the end, that's what's going to win Best Picture. I think Coda is going to take it, despite having a very, very unlikely path to the Oscars, because it has no director nomination, it has no editing nomination, and I don't know if it necessarily would get them if the nominations were happening today. So it's a very weird, different ceremony, but I think every ceremony is its own thing, every movie is individual, and in the end, Coda just seems to be capturing the right energy at the right time, and I think it's going to take Best Picture at the end of the night. So, those are my predictions for the 94th Annual Academy Awards. Let me know, are you having trouble with actress and picture? Should I have stayed on my original predictions? Make sure to let me know your own thoughts on this year's Academy Awards. And if you want to hear more about my opinions on awards season, make sure to check out Oscar Film Forecast right here on YouTube. We're going to be reacting and breaking down the winners of the Academy Awards next week, so make sure to tune in for that. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you at the movies.